welcome back to the Couch Command, where we do a journey through geekness. With me today, I have Matt.
Hey, how we doing? Good to be here.
Cool, and also we have with us Isaac from Lobster Madnick Reviews.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And today we're going to be doing a review on the Eternals. I look forward to probably being, once again, the only person that liked it and defending my ground. But before we get there, Isaac, what have you been geeking on lately?
All right, so this time I was like, I was ashamed of myself that I was like struggling last time, so I brought a list. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm surprised I didn't bring this up last time, but the Star Wars Visions, I really enjoyed that. It brought me back to a simpler time of the anime anthology, which I enjoyed, which was like kicked off by the Wachowskis and the Matrix, the Animatrix, and it seemed like everyone was like, it was an interesting time. It was like what I like to think of as like the Suncoast video era, where things could still be significant on DVD, and it was like anime was this cool exotic thing that maybe you'd see on like Adult Swim or on DVD shelves and Suncoast Video, and the idea was like we're gonna, well, honestly I think the Animatrix was like a passion project because the Wachowskis got the do whatever the fuck you want card, but then it kind of became like everyone was doing anime anthologies. Halo got an anime anthology, the Batman got an anime anthology, and I sort of like, most of the time the films aren't very good. But yeah, I like Keith. What was your opinion on the Star Wars Vision? Since I know you probably saw it.
You're reminding me that I haven't watched the last one yet. I'd almost go as far as say I loved it. There's some that like made like my heart swell up and like put tears in my eye even because it was so fucking beautiful. It reminded me a lot of like the daydreams of Star Wars I used to have as a kid. So it was fun seeing Star Wars just be Star Wars and creative again and not trying to lay down like fan argument bait. So that was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed them a lot. My only complaint was that like I was annoyed about how Jedi-centric they were. I thought it was like a huge waste to not like have like a Cowboy Bebop themed like bounty hunters or smuggler story. It's like, oh, okay, we get it. Star Wars is Japanese samurai. Like, how many goddamn samurai stories are we gonna get here?
I would say that Star Wars isn't supposed to be just Jedi, but man, they keep leaning into it. Matt, what did you think of the anthology or did you see it yet?
I saw some of it. To be honest, it didn't really hold my interest all that well, and I agree. None of them? I agree with the assessment that like, yeah, what's with all the Jedi? I thought we were moving away from that a little bit, like with Rogue One, for example, or even Solo. There's a lot less Jedi, and I think I think they were slowly proving, hey, we don't need Jedi for Star Wars to be interesting. And then here we are, and then the samurai thing. Like they should have had a list or something or a limit, and be like, okay, y'all, we can have 2 samurais. Like who's gonna get the samurai, and they can put like their names in a hat, and then those are the only 2 can have samurai. Nobody else gets samurai. All the rest of y'all gotta be smugglers and bounty hunters, and nope, dang samurai.
Yep, I agree. We should have gotten like gunslinger episode, bounty hunters, smugglers. But yeah, they went all in on like more Jedi.
More Jedi. Although, let me put a defense. No one seems to love the one with the furry girl. Let me just put I thought that was a very interesting thing to have the adopted family, but to have the biological daughter become like the evil, imperial simp. Instead of the father, which would have been like the stereotypical story, or like the sort of like easier story choice, to have the father be the evil one, and then the 2 girls kind of rebel against them. But I love the idea that the adopted daughter, I'm going to ensure the family legacy, and then the biological daughter is like, nah, we need to join the Imperial, and she gets like a bitchin' Imperial officer's outfit. I enjoyed it. No one else seemed to, but I thought it was underappreciated.
I need to go back because I think that's the last one that I didn't see yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. But now I'm interested. Maybe I'll like it.
Yeah, I'd say give him I enjoyed that one. I also enjoyed the one from the Imaishi Studio Trigger, where it was just like, I mean, it's another Jedi one, but it was like, you know, Promare, Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill energy.
Dude,
So,
that one had me pumping my fists in the air. I loved that one so much.
Wait, which one was this one? What?
it's called The Twins. It's basically like.
Yeah. I didn't finish that one, but I will finish it. Yes.
The Gurren Lagann like animation style, just fucking wild, and like I saw like I won't spoil it. Like there's a finishing attack in there that turns something that everyone's hated from The Last Jedi into something that was just fucking awesome.
Hell yeah.
Wow, yeah.
So I would recommend that. Finally, after a long time, the next thing on my list is I finally got around to watching the Vinland Saga anime, and it was great. It was it fills the berserk-sized hole in my heart from left behind by Kentaro Muera's death. So I enjoyed the first season, and now I'm going through the manga, and it's got that nice sort of like bare bones, just because it's like more, there's no fantasy element. It's like slightly more historical, even though it exists in that sort of like kind of quasi heightened reality of like certain martial arts manga like Baki. So I don't know if I'd call it completely realistic, but it's more grounded than something like Berserk. So I've been enjoying seeing Thorfinn's quest as he goes through England on his quest for vengeance, and Studio Wit did a brilliant job of that.
Oh wow, and that's on Amazon Prime, huh?
Yep, it's still up there for all your listening. I highly recommend that. It's definitely worth, every now and then, we all love our anime and manga schlock, but every now and then you get like one of those animes like, this is big boy adult storytelling and it's great. And Vinland Saga is like one of those ones that, you got to hold up high amongst the sea of, harem degeneracy.
Oh, so I can show this one to my non-anime friends and not be embarrassed. I love it.
Yes, it is one of those on the list of you can show it off to friends and family and not be embarrassed and not have that. But you just have to understand the cultural context. She's really a 10,000-year-old dragon who looks like a 10-year-old girl.
All right, weeb, whatever. Book of weeb.
Oh, yeah, this looks very Berserk.
And also in that line, I've been. I didn't realize. Well, I sort of knew this in the back of my head. I knew that, I'm going back. I'm watching Cowboy Bebop because it's on Netflix in preparation to that Bebop, which we'll see. I don't know. The reviews are not very great, and I think we all sort of suspected it. But I saw a lot of it on Adult Swim. Back in the day, but I missed a lot of episodes in between, so it's fun to go in order and see the episodes. The ones I've seen parts of, the ones I know really well, like the one where he fights the giant, the French guy, Le Pew, who's like
yes.
But the other ones like I never saw the introduction of Radical Edward.
Cool. Wait, so you're seeing some of these for the first time ever?
Yeah, because nice. I've never seen like the mushroom episode where they have hallucinations on mushrooms.
Absolutely, that's so good.
Yeah, I was there when it happened. Like I'd be excitedly waiting for it to hit my 4-star video for rental, and like the VHS tape, waiting for that to hit, and just being over the moon when I just got to experience it the first time. It was kind of like, at the time to me, it felt like animated Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, it's funny. Some of the voice acting is a little, but I mean, of course, all the leads are great. But it does feel like it's got that Tarantino energy, and it's got that style, and that really gritty, fun world building that's kind of like Blade Runner-esque. Although, well, just out of curiosity, what are both of you, what do you think of what's your over-under now that we've seen the trailer, the Lost Sessions, a lot of the Cowboy Bebop anime? Do you think it's going to succeed, or do you think it's going to flop?
You first, Matt.
Oh, man. I think it's going to flop.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have no faith in it whatsoever.
It's so weird because it's like it's you can tell that the enthusiasm is there, but it just still feels like really expensive cosplayer fan film.
Yeah. I want it to succeed very badly. I want it to be good. I have nothing against anything they're doing. I just don't think it's going to.
Like I've said a couple times, like to me, it's just like, check it out. We're doing live action Mona Lisa, guys. We're gonna do this photo shoot, and she's gonna look just like Mona Lisa. Everybody, like, how awesome is that? Like, no.
But wait, the original Mona Lisa made a lot of money. A lot of people really like it. We're just gonna do the. It's a twist with a twist, so you're gonna love it.
Like, it's already good. Like, I don't need to see the live action for people who are too embarrassed to watch animation version.
It is almost
feels like.
Yeah.
People.
Don't worry, here, guys. This is live action. It's not for babies. Like, now you can like it. Like,
that is
it was a masterpiece. You guys, you freaking people. So like, I guess I'm looking forward to seeing how they try. So that's what I'm interested in seeing. Like, all right, let's see what you guys end up doing, and hopefully this inspires somebody else to do. Like, a meme I keep saying is, stop remaking things, just make new things that are as significant. So instead of, like, remaking Cowboy Bebop, it would have been cool if, like, they had that budget to make their own bounty hunter, space bounty hunter thing with, like, their own, like, maybe using punk music or something like that. So it's like, make new things with new hearts that are on the same level. There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
brand naming recognition.
That takes money, and that's risk. Cowboy Bebop's a name. Nobody wants to have that risk.
Yeah, there's varying levels of risk, and I think remake is one of the lower ones, as is prequels. Creating something new or carrying a story on, more risk. People don't want to do it.
Yeah. Alas. Well, hopefully we'll break through. I want to get to back to the 80s era where, like, what is this new thing? Holy shit, this was crazy. And just being explosions of unpredictable awesome that come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. That's what I want back.
I think that's what's kind of like, no matter what you think about the Squid Game. I mean, I think we're in a few more weeks, we'll get to the point where, everyone kind of hates it because it's oversaturated. And there are too many, like, terrible children's videos that say, like, calling Squid Game Game Master at 3 a.m. He responded back. But, like, what's nice about the Squid Game is that it's like it's bringing new iconography, new things, like, and it's all instantly iconic. The sets are iconic. The pink guards are now a symbol, that's always exciting to see. Versus, as much as nice as Ghostbusters Afterlife looks, the big thing that I have against it is that, like, oh God, why are you going back to, like, the marshmallows and the dogs?
Yeah, holy shit! I was not expecting them to do that. And was hoping they wouldn't. Like, they beat Gozer. Let it go. No, Pterodogs and the freaking Pillsbury the mushroom guy.
Make up new mythology. Have them fight Cthulhu. Honestly, what would have been, like, the best Ghostbusters thing if they ever got the original cast back, or just, like, a new version of Ghostbusters. I don't know. I just had this idea when I was, like, driving around. So imagine, like, you see a trailer, and it's like it looks like it's going to be another Paranormal Activity movie. And it's like a found footage, and things start moving around, and people start flipping out, and then just the Ghostbusters come in, and they just do their Ghostbusting shit of, like, trying to get the demon out, and they're just, like, riffing, and it feels like a found footage, like, recording.
Oh, dude, that sounds like a great idea.
I love that idea.
I love that. And honestly, you could do that with so many things, because usually with these things like Paranormal Activity, The Grudge, or The Ring, like, the ghosts are all powerful. They're unstoppable. It'd be so refreshing to have the fucking Ghostbusters show up and just kick their ass.
Yeah, that's what was cool about them when we were kids. For me when I was a kid, like, the fact that, like, I think, like I grew up. We went through the Satanic Panic. And, like, I was Christian back then, so I think even more genuinely it scared me. But it was fantastic to see that, no, you can draw the line in the stand and fight back. Like, I'm like, oh, yeah. So,
science.
Yeah, there's like so much like supernatural stuff that you can riff on in like the horror genre that like it just feels like I'm sure the general consensus is that like it's better than 2016, but like this is such a wasted opportunity. There's like smarter things he could have done with it, but yeah, that's like my big misgivings for whatchamacallit, the new upcoming Ghostbusters. And I guess the Cowboy Bebop, like, that was another thing. I was thinking, like, if you had Robert Rodriguez and you took, like, a Sin City thing where it was just, like, a really hyper-stylized green screen background, I feel like that would have sold it more than this kind of clunky live action that just feels like, kind of, like, cringy.
Well. What else been geeking on?
All right, one final thing, then I will yield the floor. So, what if I told you, I'm sure you both, Matt and Keith, you both have, like, favorite books or movies or things you wanted to see the end story of. Maybe it got canceled. Maybe it was never published for a billion reasons. Maybe the author died. What if I told you you have the opportunity to buy the ending for the thing you loved for $95?
Oh, my God.
Buy the ending?
Yes.
Go on.
So here's my story. There's this science fiction writer, David Gerard. He wrote for like the original Star Trek. He wrote the like Trouble with Tribbles episode. He had also a hand in the Next Generation. He's had like a few books adapted into movies, but he's kind of not been on the best. He spends more time like writing rants on his Facebook wall than he does like publishing stuff, which is. It's super frustrating for me because he had this amazing series that a friend of mine turned me on when I was in college, and it was called War Against the CHTORR. So, War Against the CHTORR is an alien invasion story, but no aliens come down on flying saucers. Basically what happens is the setup is that there's a plague that like wipes off like 60% of humans' population. But then you learn that the plague was the start of invasion, and it's not like a sentient alien race. It's an ecology that is coming in, subsuming, and taking over Earth's ecology. So they're like these giant worms that eat everything, and then they form nests, and little by little, there are more elements to the CHTORR ecology that kind of builds up with each book as it gets more and more entrenched within the world. And basically, it's about like one guy's journey as he studies it and tries to defeat it and tries to build countermeasures. And I freaking love it.
So, it's an invasion of environment. Yeah, like ecology. That's a like some kind of like space pollen came to Earth and is just trying to change our environment.
Well, to give you an idea of where it may have came from, but like you don't really get an origin, but like basically like microbes come there, the microbes start establishing, and then they start producing alien organisms. So like, red trees start rapidly growing and they like kill all of Earth's trees. And more and more complex organisms come and they like kind of like consume or convert Earth's organisms to become part of the CHTORR ecology. They get like assimilated, so they're like these symbiote like hairs that like are a part of the worms and a part of like a lot of the ecology. And eventually, humans get assimilated, where they have the symbiote worms all through their bodies, and all these like parasites tunnel through them, and the sort of hive mind of the CHTORR mass. Retrofits the organisms of the native host planet to suit its needs, and it's kind of all-consuming and terrifying. What is the intelligence of this thing? There are 4 books published in like a series of 7 or 8, but Mr. Gerard, strapped for cash, offered the CHTORR bundle, so I spent $95, and oh boy was I happy. I got the series Bible, which gave me the story outlines for the books that he'll probably never get around writing, a few additional like short stories and some other segments from books he'll never finish. So I am just like a pig in heaven. It's the second best thing. I would have liked to have gotten the books, but like, let's say you could buy, an outline of whatever the hell George R.R. Martin was planning for the final Game of Thrones books or A Song of Ice and Fire. Would you like to have that?
Yes. Huh. Oh yeah. This didn't end up where I thought it was going to go. I thought like it was going to be like a service of like fan fiction writers who are like, "Are you sick of waiting for the end of Game? I'll write it for you. $95."
No,
that's where I thought it was going to go too. Honestly, yeah. He's like, all right, I'm gonna take a break from Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm gonna finish this story for you.
Because like we have this friend, a guy named Jason. And he loves the shit out of Harry Potter fan fiction, and like he explores tons of it. And he says like, yeah, I have found stuff that's as good. Like it's well written and it's as good as like the real stuff. And like the writers, they are out there. So I guess it's kind of possible to find someone to maybe give you the ending that, may never show up.
Right. Yeah, but I feel like that somebody just going in and finishing a story like that would cost significantly more than $95, or at least it should.
True.
Because they would be writing almost an entire book in theory, and the amount of like work and research, etc., that would take, especially if they don't already know the story, would be tremendous. But that said, well, Isaac, like this whole thing, if I was interested enough to know the end of a story, yeah, I'd pay that for sure.
Especially for like a writer that you love.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, easily. So I was with his Ari Salvatore, like, hey man, whatever you want.
So I was very happy that he was like, I saw it on his Facebook wall, and I was like, all right, I've wanted this for 10 years, give it to me. And I'm sad that I won't get the fully fleshed out thing, but I got the satisfying ending, and I was very pleased to learn the secret of the CHTORR intelligence, how it worked, and the ultimate bittersweet ending that the series resolved on. And I was like, yeah, that was a good ending. I'm sad you didn't get to play it out. I would have liked to have seen it, but this is better than nothing, so... it was a sense of resolution that I would never get, that I was very happy. So I'm very, I've gone through, I haven't read everything, but I'm happy that I have that bundle. And, I was very pleased to like actually read through the summary of the books that will probably never get written.
I think that's great, because it's like you had an itch for many years that you couldn't scratch. And
yep.
This finally did it. It finally, and then now and you're set.
Straight from the writer too.
Mm-hmm. I have closure. I have closure.
Beautiful closure.
Right. And what's it called again?
War Against the CHTORR.
Cool. All right, Matt, what have you been geeking on?
All right, we got a couple things here. The first one, I'm going to start with a series of books, actually, to kind of springboard off of what you were talking about there, Isaac. I subscribe to Kindle Unlimited from the Amazons, and I find it's actually a really good deal. There's a ton of books out there, and sometimes you find some really neat stuff. And the thing I'm reading right now is a series of books by this dude named Dennis E. Taylor, and it's called the BOBIVERSE. And the first book is called We Are Legion. We Are Bob. And it is a book that starts in present time, or maybe a little bit after present time. It's following this guy who's like a developer, like a software engineer, essentially. And he signs up for this thing where if he dies, they'll freeze his brain in the hopes of being able to, or his body in the hopes of bringing him back in the future when technology is better. Right? So, Of course, he immediately gets into an accident and he dies, and then he wakes up again like 150 years in the future, except for he's not in his body. They have turned him into an AI. They scanned all of his memories in his brain and just basically turned him into a computer. And throughout the book, what happens is he essentially becomes a spaceship. He becomes like an interstellar spaceship.
Damn.
Like, I believe FTL, and he just starts cloning himself and slowly going out into the galaxy and finding other planets and whatnot. And like,
damn.
For like humanity to kind of expand beyond Earth and whatnot.
Interesting. You're making me love that. Seems I would say sci-fi is having a resurgence, but I think that I just spent a long time not looking in those directions for probably too long.
Yeah,
but
and
that's cool.
It is really neat, and it's fun because every time he clones himself, he's slightly different, and he always comes up with a new name. The new clone comes up with a new name for himself, and it's just also kind of interesting, like how like this person who becomes an artificial intelligence found ways to keep himself sane, because you can imagine if all of a sudden you're a computer, you don't have a body, you have no sensation.
First thing that came to my mind, like, how hard did he go insane?
Like he didn't. He was okay. Like he found things to kind of occupy himself, and then eventually he had enough memory and processing power where he just created himself a simulation where he had a body and gave himself sensation and everything.
And how did you find out this existed?
I just got recommended on Amazon because they're like, "Hey, you're reading this other trash. Want to try this trash?" And I was like, "I really do, yes." And it turns out it's really excellent. I highly recommend. It's like super easy reading, but it's some cool ideas too. Like I don't want to spoil too much about it, but you know, like he starts running into some other AIs and everything, and it kind of talks a little about the future of humanity, and yeah, it's really fun, and I do recommend, and it has a fair amount. The guy was a geek, so it has a fair amount of pop culture references and everything.
Right. One more time, what's it called?
It is called. The series is called the BOBIVERSE, so BOB-iverse, like universe, but Bob. And it's by Dennis E. Taylor, and the first book is called We Are Legion. Yeah, it's great. Highly recommend.
Nice, dude.
Yeah. All right, and then second thing I'm going to talk about, and I was actually only going to talk about the BOBIVERSE, but then y'all brought up Harry Potter, and Jason, right? Yeah, like he loves his Harry Potter fanfic. Well, the other day I got to see the rework of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. That's the Broadway show for Harry Potter.
Wait, so I have so many questions. So wait, you, is that like the main show on Broadway, or did you see it like reworked and then somewhere else?
No, I saw it on Broadway.
Ooh, so how was it reworked?
So before, I'm not sure if you know this, but before it was 2 nights. If you got a ticket, you then had to pick 2 performances, part 1 and part 2, because it was so long. And so that was doing fine, right? But then during the pandemic, they're like, okay, this is a bit much. Let's shorten it to 1 show, huh? How about that? So they did that. They shortened it, and I'm putting shortened in quotes because this was still a 4-hour-long affair. I got in there at 6 p.m. and left at 10. Now, to their credit, it was still entertaining the entire time. And the person I went with, like, well, it's basic. It really does come across as really good fan fiction.
I read the script. I'm still morbidly curious to see the play, just because, like, I could not think of a worse medium than theater to have Harry Potter, which, you know, is reliant on special effects. But I imagine it's probably like a very like big production, and it's very impressive.
Dude, I am telling you, like, because it was the invited dress, we got to like look down and see all of their tech tables and everything. Like, I don't know if you've ever teched a show or whatnot, but for me, mostly it's been anything I've teched has been like community theater, regional theater, stuff like that. We have like 1 light board, 1 sound board if we're lucky. But they had boards all over the place, like 17 monitors, wires as far as the eye can see, like 20 people doing tech. It was insane. And the special effects were bananas. Like, I've seen a fair amount of things on Broadway, like you know, like Lion King, Wicked, like things that are big budget shows where like balls to the wall, like they're going for it. But I've never seen anything like this. Never.
Cool. Example of something you saw that
Flu powder. You know, flu powder, or like I think it's maybe not flu powder. It's the phones, right? Where like they can like get on a phone and then they'll like get sucked into it and come out the other end or something.
Yeah, that sounds like flu powder.
I think that's flu powder. Yeah, they do that, and they're just standing there, and then they get sucked into the phone. They're wearing a cloak, and then all of a sudden the cloak gets sucked in, and they're gone.
And you can't tell the difference. Like, it's that good special effects on stage. It looked like a movie effect.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Jesus.
And they had what are the ring wraiths called in Harry Potter?
Oh, the Dementors.
The Dementors. Thank you. Yeah, they had Dementors, and they were awesome. They were actually scary, and they flew around the whole audience. Like, and then they would like come down and take people, and then they'd go into the air, and the person would be gone.
Oh my God! Get the fuck out of here!
was insane. And I mean, you ended up really liking the characters too. Like, the acting was phenomenal. Like, yeah, if you get the chance to see it, I highly recommend it. And I think the choice of reducing it to one night as opposed to two was a really good one.
I wonder how much they had to cut out to cut it down and get it in one show.
Me too, honestly. I never saw it when it was 2 parts, but my understanding is quite a bit. I believe that, like, originally it was like at least 3 hours a night. So I believe they cut like 2 hours worth of material.
With the Dementors, could you not tell they were on strings either?
You couldn't really see the strings.
And damn, and they must have like actors in the audience that they could rip out and make disappear.
Well, they would fly around the audience, right, and like scare people and go be all spooky in front of them. But then when they were grabbing the actors who were getting dementored, they were on stage.
Okay,
they would just kind of grab them, and then I'm like, my guess I think they made liberal use of trapdoors, honestly. In this, I think that stage is just littered with trapdoors, but you couldn't see them, you couldn't tell at any point. And then also, there's a lot of use of time turners in this play, and they did this phenomenal lighting effect when they did it. Like, there's all these pillars and arches and whatnot all over the stage, really pretty. But every time they used the time turner, they used this lighting effect that made it look like the entire stage was like wobbling and warping in and out of reality.
Interesting.
It's incredible.
I'm gonna say, like, would there be any chance this will be on YouTube?
You might be able to find some scenes, but it wouldn't. You might as well look, right? But so usually you can find some scenes from things. Sometimes you can even find entire shows on YouTube of Broadway stuff. Now, that being said, this is Harry Potter, so you might have a slightly harder time.
Cool, though.
But worth looking.
And the story, you called it fan fiction. Will you say it doesn't really live up to what you like really think would happen in the next movie? Or
I don't. I mean, I wouldn't put it past this. If they made new movies that are actually pushing the story forward, I wouldn't put it past this being something. But I could see a fan fiction person doing it. I don't want to discount it. I don't want to make it sound worse than it is, because I really do think the story was quite good. Because it's dealing with like the kids of Harry and Hermione and Draco,
It's the Baruto of the Harry Potter verse.
It's the what?
The Baruto, the sequel to Naruto.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah, totally.
What we wanted to happen in Star Wars, but oh no, Rian Johnson had to do his own thing.
Anyway, but yeah, I could see it being in fan fiction, but also I don't want to sell it short. I really thought it was after having a couple days to think about it, it's really excellent. If you get a chance to see it, definitely do so.
All right, been geeking on anything else?
But that's good enough.
All right. Let's see. I just did a podcast last night, and I'm going to continue what I've been geeking on because I just saw like the latest episode of it, and it is the Chucky TV series. You guys, Chucky fans?
I have seen the first movie, maybe one other in there somewhere, and I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I like breaking the backboard. I think is what you call it in basketball. In basketball,
it's a backboard.
Yeah. Breaking the backboard of suggestions of please watch all of the Chucky movies. You will have so much fun.
Damn.
Yeah, like the thing that makes them great is it's always done by the same guy, a guy named Don Mancini. And each time you get further into the Chuckyverse, you're waiting for that thing to happen that like kind of feels like it happened in other horror movies where like it gets disconnected, it forgets like what happened before or whatever, and then this moment kind of keeps happening where you're like, oh shit, this is still a continuation, and there's like these stingers of like jaw-dropping returns of like original OG characters. Like, I will say that the boy from 1988 is still in the series.
What?
Like he still comes back. And then in the latest one, there's like this woman. She can't walk, and eventually, there's at a point in time, Chucky possesses her, and then like she starts getting up and acting like Chucky, and I'm just like, Wow, she's really good at that. Like, she's got like she even kind of seems to she moving her facial structure in a way to make her look like. And then I found out that's his real life daughter.
Oh,
yeah, like the original actor, who I think was like Cypher in The Matrix. The voice of Chucky, his real life daughter is in the series, and then she plays possessed Chucky. And like when I was watching, I was like, wow, she's way too good at this. And then because yeah, she got to observe her own father, and she appeared. Now she's back. She showed up in the TV series, and there's like this section where we keep doing flashbacks to Charles Lee Ray, who becomes Chucky, like as a little kid and a teenager and a grown man, and like growing into Chucky. And like there's like like maybe in his like 20s or 30s Chucky or Charles, and I found out after the credit sequence that person was played by his daughter, who put on like drag and like a prosthetic chin, and just like whoa. So I can't recommend the Chucky saga enough. Like,
wow.
You're gonna have so much fun and see a lot of great things if you get through all the movies. They're all fun. They all kind of change tone, but they all keep coming back to quality. Like, it's almost like a fun time capsule as you experience different eras of movies. Like, the first two, you feel the 80s, then you feel the 90s, you feel the early 2000s, then you feel the 2017, and like, yeah, it's a travel. You get to travel through time with Chucky, and it's so much fun. I can't recommend highly enough.
That's amazing.
So,
yeah.
Is the new series on Sci-Fi, is that kind of like a reboot, or is it its own?
Nope.
It's a direct
continuation from the last movie.
Wow. So
yeah, there's Cult of Chucky that dropped in 2017.
Yeah.
And like every time this happens, like there's one reboot that is outside of all this called Child's Play, and they did some kind of stupid AI Chucky, and I think I actually liked it, but like it's not real Chucky. Mm-hmm. But every time you watch a new movie, like now it's a spoiler, well, not a spoiler, but every time you watch a new Chucky, you're like, all right, does it remember the last movie?
Yeah.
And like it always does. Then the TV series comes, and you're like, yeah, of course they're gonna reboot. Nope. Like all of a sudden, like you turn the corner and there's that character again, and it's like picking up weeks after the 2017 movie ended.
Phenomenal. It just drives me nuts when movies, TV shows, whatever, have no memory. Mm-hmm. I'm like, when they do that, I'm like, is that deliberate, or did they didn't just forget? It was impossible. It must be easier or cheaper or something. Just pretend like that old stuff never happened.
It seems what I see is like new artists want to be all like, this is mine now.
Oh boy.
And therefore they don't want to play with the toys of the last person. Like how the Aliens franchise kind of evolved, where Alien happened, then James Cameron comes in and turns it into an action movie. And to me, Aliens fans have always just wanted more of that again, please. But each time someone comes in, they're like, no, not freaking awesome Space Marines. We're doing bounty hunters. We're doing a prison planet. And it's just like,
or just like
Terminator
reboot continuity syndrome, where it's like, you keep on, people still want a good Terminator movie, so then this Terminator reboot is a true sequel to Terminator 2, but then the next Terminator reboot comes, and this is the real reboot that ignores the previous reboot that came before it, and that's the direct sequel to Terminator 2.
Yeah. Well, Halloween did that.
Yeah.
Halloween did that with the 2018 Halloween. They said, all right, everybody, forget about everything that happened after Halloween 2, and this is now the sequel to that.
There's even a Halloween entry that like has nothing to do with Michael Myers.
Yeah,
like,
Season of the Witch.
Season of the Witch is actually kind of classic.
Oh yeah, I plan to do the full tour eventually. I think that the Season of Witch actually probably scared Kid Keith a little too hard. I remember, like, did Kid die with like a pumpkin mask?
Oh yeah,
I'm like, man,
he sure does.
Fucked me up bad.
Yeah, he dies big time. Big time.
So yeah, I think I'm ready to go back.
Nice. Yeah, it's an odd one. It's definitely an odd one, and certainly an outlier. But yeah, I definitely recommend Season of the Witch.
Cool. Yeah, please, for love of God, everyone get in on the Chucky wagon.
But you're saying that we should watch all the Chucky movies, then the TV series, or can we just jump right into the TV? Or watch the movies first? Okay, got it.
You definitely want to see the movies first.
Got it.
It's unexpectedly a continuing story, and then previous villains and heroes return in really rad ways.
Oh, I love that. I love that stuff.
You can't believe you're seeing that many years later, this person comes back, and you get this huge freaking smile. I'm gonna spoil it because it was spoiled for me. In like one of the stingers, like, so first, the first movie is like a boy named Andy, and then the second movie he's an orphan, and he gets teamed up with like the big sister character, and then the big sister character kind of disappears for the rest of the series until I think the last movie, and she shows up in a stinger, and you just kind of like, you can't help but be glowing because like, oh my God, how many years has it been since we've seen you? And she's like, still here. Fuck you, Chucky. I'm like, oh my God.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, Child's Play. Good God. Unexpectedly, one of the best horror franchises that no one thought would ever still be around.
Damn, dude. Sold. All right, well, what else? What else you geeking on?
All right. One other thing. Have I talked to you guys about Ninja Jiraiya yet?
No.
Nope. Mm-mm.
So let's see. In the 80s, we all know what Power Rangers is, and Power Rangers in Japan is called Super Sentai. Super Sentai has a sister series called Kamen Rider. Then they have their odd cousin out, the Metal Hero series, where usually have like a single hero, and like they can have almost any background you want. They suit up into some kind of usually metal armor, and they fight weekly bad guys. Oh. And in this version, we get ourselves like a family of ninjas. There's the main hero, Jiraiya, and he's got like a little sister, and she can transform into her ninja costume. Then they got a little brother, and he just wears a karate gi, but they all fight together. They have like their father, who's the master ninja, and it's just kind of like a lot of fun where every episode is a new enemy-themed ninja, and they go wild with whatever themes they want to. Like, they first fight a Chinese ninja kung fu master, and it's so fucking cool. The 80s aesthetic is just freaking mwah. I can't recommend it highly enough. It's hard to describe because, like, when I show you pictures of it, it will look like it's bad cheesy, but it hits this like level of like the show you wish you saw in the 80s as a kid.
You know what's funny?
Where
Keith, I'm sorry to jump in here.
Please.
But I have totally seen this before. Not the series,
but
I know the characters. These
How?
are tacky stretchoid warriors.
Oh my God, they are. I saw. That was the saddest thing I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. They took the images of these things and they turned them into a terrible toy. Of which I actually had my brother Jim and I had a bunch of these.
Yeah. The like I saw like the video because I was trying to find like like a retrospective, but the best I found was, did you know they turn them into shitty toys? Like, oh God, no.
Yeah.
Like there's the Baron Ninja Owl Castle Owl Man or something like that. He's one of the tacky heroes, but in here,
and
they go into the death. So like, a bad guy ninja will show up in town and be like, "I need to kill this one person," and they freaking cut that guy down. He'll explode into light, but like, eventually, like sometimes they do take off their masks, and it's a human underneath. So it's kind of cool that they're willing to go fight to the death in a children's show.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Japan's always been more willing to do that than the States. I mean, just look at the difference between Voltron in Japan and the States with Sven, right?
With everything, like apparently I watched Go Lion, and like what the bad guys they're always eating, and I watched Go Lion and found out they're always eating people.
Oh.
Yeah, those that meat that they're eating is alien sentient beings chopped up, and that red wine they're drinking is blood.
What?
They've always been eating people and drinking blood in Voltron.
It's people.
Yeah,
Voltron's
holy fucking
eating
hell.
people. That's bananas.
Yes, Japan goes hard in children's show.
Random question though, Keith. I know this is kind of old, but what did you think of the DreamWorks Netflix Voltron reboot?
Loved it at first, and then I sensed something felt very off, and I got away from it before it ended. And then like a friend came along, a guy named Nick Bain. He just like put his face in his hand. He's like, "Oh my god, you're so lucky you didn't see how this ended." And like and then I watched retrospectives that just said like they started getting like studio notes like, "Please do this," and like we don't have enough time to do that, and they had to swap around people and to different roles they shouldn't be in, and just a sad car crash by the end. So
Yeah,
it was good at
that
first.
sounds about right. I think the first 3 seasons were pretty solid, but then it was kind of like, and I've seen like some retrospective talked about the pretty interesting behind the production scenes, and like sometimes where you could like there were fourth wall breaks that were poking fun about like I think there's one scene where like the comic relief Corin guy keeps on when he's like doing a fake play, he says we have to keep on putting in Shiro because they love you so much. Which was like a reflection of like the studio notes, or where they just wanted to keep on having the main mentor character in. But that was kind of sad because it started. I was loved Voltron when I was a younger kid, and so it was fun to see like an updated one with like, oh, the best animators and writers from Legend of Korra are bringing this to life. Ooh, it's got a strong start. But I knew we were not. I knew once they got rid of Lotor, who was like their strongest villain, I was like, oh, this is not a good. This is not going to go anywhere great.
And they were so close with that to just like, just have him do a nice heel turn or I guess it'd be a babyface turn because he was a heel, whatever, and just let him be a good guy, Ugh. But then that classic like, no, he's gonna be evil forever. That's that, He was great. I really liked Lotor.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I loved him as a heel. I loved him as a face. I loved his duplicity. I thought Lotor did nothing wrong for the most part, and they should have just worked with him. And then I was like furious when they spent like a whole season trying to recapture Earth, and I'm like, these are the most badass Voltron mega hyper fighters that we've seen take out starships. Why are they like having so much difficulty fighting this like throwaway guy who they beat in the first season?
Yeah. Yeah, it's it started so strong, and I did finish it, and I just I thought it was okay, but it started amazing and finished okay. It was sad.
The start was legit amazing. I did love that show.
Anything?
But
anything else on your geek out list?
I'm gonna say no. Let's close this up and get into review of the Eternals.
Before we get,
first,
because I'm always thinking of the last thing that I saw, but I didn't mention. I'll keep this brief so we can get into Eternals. But on the giant robot, I finally saw the final Evangelion film. I had my buddy over.
Oh, don't spoil.
Yeah.
I'm working my way through.
I haven't seen it either, but you can just say, is it good? Oh boy.
There were, I will say, out of the rebuild films, I enjoyed it the most because it did the most interesting things. It did like mature things that felt like very natural progressions. I won't give anything away, but I will say there was like a big focus on Gendo, which felt very appropriate. That like the final conflict should be between Shinji and Gendo, and I love that stuff. There's also fuck ton of batshit crazy metaphysical insanity and insane world building, which I wish was explained better. And the stupid girl Mari Illustrious, the film had still not justified her existence out of selling merchandise. Which I freaking hate that character. I really hate that character so much.
I expected a payoff of explaining why she came about. It doesn't?
No. No, not, there's like maybe one thing that you could like maybe imply, but and I was like, maybe there's maybe I just didn't see it. I need to look through the Wikipedia. I'm gonna spend all night looking through Wikipedia to justify why she was there. Like just one line, say she's like the daughter of like Gendo's second in command. I forget his name. You know,
the white hair guy, right?
Yeah. Like if she was his daughter, just justify it like that. Just throw something in there. Tell me she's not there for just merchandising, and there was nothing for that. And I will say there was one thing at the end with her that really pissed me off, and you'll know it when you see it. But
interesting.
Largely, I'd say I was positive towards it. I was not a huge fan of the reboot films. I don't think they added and changed much, but this is the first one where it felt like the entire weird 10+ year saga of it was almost kind of worth it, and left me leaving in with a better impression than I came in with.
Okay,
good.
So
all right, yeah. I gotta keep going through those, but first I also need to finish the last episode of Squid Game, which, like, every episode is just so crushingly depressing that, like, I'm just like,
yeah,
it's hard to want to go back to watch.
So
more.
interesting. I normally don't go for the crushingly depressing stuff like that, but I could not stop watching. Tough one, man.
It's funny. I'm working on a video right now, scripting. I mean, it's not the most in-depth video about Squid Games, but I'm talking about how like what I thought made it like so compelling is the storytelling of how the games are structured.
Interesting. Yeah, there definitely is something about it that makes it particularly compelling and difficult to put down.
Yeah, because each game you want to know what the next game is, and each game is like perfectly structured that it changes the rules or it adds new things to make you want to see what the next twist is, what's the next mechanic that they're going to introduce. Because the first two are like just individual sports. The second one, it's a competitive thing where it's a team and it's not wholly dependent on an individual.
Don't tell us the last.
I won't tell you the last one.
I'll say that the second to last episode, which I've stopped on, that game was so excruciating to me that I actually fast forwarded through. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this.
Wait. Which game?
Oh no, I watched it by fast forward. I didn't watch every single death happen as it happened.
So the hopscotch game.
Woof.
That hurt. Like watching it happen slowly was like too painful.
That's another brilliant one. I won't reveal the last game, but the last game's honestly kind of disappointing compared to the other ones. But the hopscotch game I love because the other ones give you an illusion of skill. There is no skill in the hopscotch game. It is just like the odds are against you, and it is just facing your death. And that idea is like terrifying of it being like a coin flip.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when somebody. Because you watched all the hopscotch one, Keith, right? That's done for you? You did
yes.
it. Yeah, even when somebody actually figured it out and had a way to use his literal skill, they're like, nah, man, you can't do that. This is...
Which, to me, was the game that, like they said, like, this should be, like, the ultimate fairness. Like, everybody should be... And, like, them doing that to him, to me, took away the fairness part.
Yeah.
Like... Yeah, that was harsh, man. That was, whew. But anyway.
Anyway, indeed.
All right, we ready to do Eternals?
I think so.
Yep.
Right on. All right, we'll see you guys on the other side when we review the Eternals. See you on the other side then.
Five years ago, Thanos erased half of the population of the universe. But the people of this planet brought everyone back with a snap of a finger. The sudden return of the population provided the necessary energy for the emergence to begin.
How long do we have?
7 days.
We're Eternals. We came here 7,000 years ago to protect humans from the deviants.
Why didn't you guys help fight Thanos?
or any war, or all the other terrible things throughout history.
We were instructed not to interfere in any human conflicts unless deviants are involved.
By who?
We need to find the others.
I haven't seen some of them for centuries.
Hi.
Hello.
This is what the end of the world looks like. At least we have front row seats.
You know what's never saved the planet? Your sarcasm.
We have loved these people since the day we arrived. When you love something, you protect it.
You can't protect. Any of them.
I bet you've built the perfect safe house. I mean, what's this even made of? Vibranium?
Fall collection. IKEA.
And we're back. Okay, so did we all see? We all saw Eternals. And we're gonna like just start duking it out in spoilers right away. So, Isaac, what did you think of Eternals?
I thought it was okay. I'm definitely more towards the negative. Like, I didn't completely hate it, but I guess, well, here's my sort of issue, is that, like, all right, so, of course, there's a big thing about, like, you know, the diversity of the Eternals. Marvel's pushing for more diversity. It makes sense. Appeal to a greater audience. Criticism of having a bunch of white guys named Chris being your superhero universe. It makes sense. And if, you know, nobody really gives a shit about the Eternals, so if there's something you're going to do with it, this is the one to do it. But I guess, like, the issue I had was, like, so the Eternals are robot space aliens, right?
Yep.
That seems to be the case.
That they are robots. So if they are robot space alien automatons, why do they come to Earth looking like the Burger King Kids Club in the 90s or the Magic School Bus?
I can answer that one. Because they would be spread across the planet, and he just wanted to make a template for each one to be able to blend throughout time.
Okay, so I guess that's my one thing. I just would have liked to have, like, my solution. I mean, that's a good in universe, and you know, you can sort of. I just would have liked 5 minutes of, like, maybe they show their robot forms, and then it's like analyzing data of Earth. These are the people of Earth, and then you see them, like, take on the shapes of, like, the different races of the people. Or maybe you have an opening. Like, my writerly solution would be to, like, have an opening action sequence where, like, the Eternals go destroy the deviants in prehistoric Earth, and then they, like, you know, split up and go, and each one goes to, like, a different region, and then they take on the appearance of, like, the people from those regions.
That sounds even better.
It really does, and because if the whole point was for them to blend in immediately in different regions, well, they were all hanging out in the same place.
So I will say that there are some bones that do work. Like when you go back to wherever the factory that they are made at, they don't have their complete racial human form yet. So they could maybe look different on other planets. And I think also I always think, like, there's questions people have about Eternals, and I do see enough in the story where you're not totally doing fan fiction, but you can come up with answers. Because, like, having them show up in these human forms also allows them to have some kind of, you know, like, little bits of control over humanity. As, like, they see different forms of humans, and they can become potential gods and leaders throughout wherever they show up. So
Right.
wherever their team needs to be, they have a mixture of somebody who looks like what that those humans could be like. Oh, okay, at least one of them looks like us. And
Oh, fair enough.
there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, as far as like because I haven't read anything about people having issues with the diversity or whatever, but I sort of, when I saw it, I assumed that some people would, or there would be articles about there being problems, even if people don't have problems. However, I thought it was great. Whatever, fantastic. Get everybody in there.
Oh, and the thing about I love the diversity this time around. Like, so the marketing material to me did make it look like they're trying to do SJW baiting, where that they'd make too much focus on the diversity, and they didn't at all. They did like what I wanted to do, what I want them to do which is, yeah, do diversity. Don't make that something that you should be getting a pat on the back for whatsoever. Just make them also characters.
Just do it like it's a normal thing, which it should be.
Yep, and they did it. Like, all the characters were just characters. None of them were elevated because of race, gender, or whatever. Like, they are all characters, and there you go. Please,
flaws, etc. Yeah, there you go. I think that's well said.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't disagree with that. I guess I just wanted just like one little thing that like is like another thing that bugged me is that like they come in talking like contemporary MCU characters in the past.
Yeah,
they sound like modern.
I'm sorry, they didn't start like that. Like, when they showed up, they were very robotic.
Were they?
And as
I just remember
they
when they were like chatting in Babylon, they were like whipping, and they felt like they no different than they did in like 2000 AD. It was not like where are the deviants here, or there wasn't an arc. They felt like these are their fully formed personalities, and. I think if you're going to do the ancient aliens, chariots of fire, like, just a little bit more to sell that these are like alien beings versus like, contemporary MCU characters who are just chilling in ancient Babylon or with the conquistadors.
I get you. All right. Then we'll go around to each one of us, like how we thought about it, and then we can start riffing on our notes. Matt, what'd you think of it?
It was all right. It was all right. Like, I came in not knowing exactly what to expect, and full disclosure, I missed like the first 5 minutes because I was a few minutes late, and I ended up seeing it at a smaller movie theater, and I thought as normal there'd be 20 minutes of previews, and there weren't. There were 0 previews. It just started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really freaking weird. But yeah, it just sort of. I've been trying to kind of wrap my head around generally what I thought, and my big issue with it. Really, is kind of simplistic, I suppose. I just had a hard time keeping my interest.
Okay.
It just didn't pull me in, and not that I thought some of the action sequences were wonderful, and I liked a lot of the characters, and we can talk about that when we get into the notes and everything. And I could see a future for it, and I mean, I liked a lot of the big set pieces. Like, what is it, the Celestial, the really big guys? Is that what they're called?
Oh, Ansham, isn't that his name, or Rasham, or Ansem?
Like,
I thought it was like Airmesh.
No, you're right. It's Armesh. It's Armesh.
Yeah, okay. So cool. Like, these things are just like they did a really excellent job of just making it seem. It was just terrifying how huge these things were. Mm-hmm. Like these planet-sized things. And honestly, a lot of the time, I felt like there were some issues where we were having some weird scaling problems. You remember like the G1 Transformers, like, and they would be constantly changing size. Like 1 second Bumblebee would be like the size of a building, and then him and Spike would be the same size. Just just dependent upon whatever's convenient at the moment. And I thought there were definitely moments where like, okay, if this thing is so big, then when it comes out of the Earth will explode. Then its hand, you need to easily see that hand from space.
I fully agree that what I do, I'm going to gear shift. I'm going to say cartoon. It's a cartoon. This is a G.I. Joe episode.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, like, I didn't think it was bad. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I didn't think it was like one of the worst things I've ever seen. So I know that's a little, I'm not like taking a hard line here or anything, but maybe when we get into the nitty gritty of it, I'll kind of go more one way or the other.
All right. I liked it quite a bit. I'm not fully in love with it. I'm completely away from negative. Like, the online discourse has turned into just people screaming, "Oh my God, Sky's on fire! This is the worst thing that's ever happened to Marvel." I'm like, well, Jesus, guys.
Good golly,
chill.
no, it's not.
No.
So that's Dark World. I think we can all agree.
The reviews are just having a ball with.
I will defend Dark World.
Huh? Oh wow, that would be interesting. I was not a fan of Dark World whatsoever.
Okay, actually, really quick poll, if you don't mind. What do we all think is the worst MCU movie?
Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I would say. Okay, you're right. Iron Man. I was gonna say Dark World, but no, Iron Man 2 was the worst. That was the worst it got.
Actually, which one is which one's Iron Man 2? Remind me.
It's the one with Whiplash.
Laser Whip Man.
Oh, then I'm gonna
Whiplash
say
and
Iron Man.
Mark.
Got it. I'm gonna say Iron Man 3 then.
Oh no. Yeah, I liked Iron Man 3. My heart. You hurt my heart.
Good.
I can understand, but I don't think that's the worst Marvel movie. I could argue like the pluses of Iron Man 3, but you know, everyone of course has their least favorite.
Yeah.
So Eternals to me reminds me of like in the 90s going to the comic store and like, you know, you got yourself an extra like $8 and you find yourself a self-contained like one-shot comic with like these characters you've never seen on it and a name you've never heard of. And like you're in for just this. And show me a weird wild story and you know, then it's like, you know, ground roll double, clap. All right, that was all right. I had a good time. Like with this, like I know like a lot of people, a lot of the critiques I've seen were like not fleshed out enough. Everybody wants this to be a mini series where you get the full arc of like that one guy who's the inventor and he sees it result in the A-bomb, and each person gets their full like almost movie story of like how they end up how they are, so you have a bigger payoff of like their ending. And for me, I was like, I'm good, you know, like sometimes like you get these shorter, tighter formed. I've never knew these characters before, but I get the mechanics of what's going on, and I enjoyed the story that we got, and also like I just feel like this is like the first seed planted in a new corner of the MCU that was kind of fun to finally like from a completely fresh point of view. Like this is the start of other weirdness that happens in the MCU, and I didn't see as many broken parts as like say Black Widow, which was a fun house of silliness that like its bones was just continually breaking every time you look at this or that. But for this, I had a good time. I had fun, weird sci-fi immortal fantasy, and yeah, I dug it. All right, that's what I thought.
That was a good summary.
Yeah.
Let's see. I definitely agree with Matt. You know, I don't think it's the worst thing. I think it's an over-exaggeration to say it's the worst thing. It's watchable. It does a decent job of introducing the characters. It has some interesting conflicts, like the, you know, I don't know how appropriate it was to have like a guy, you know, cry over Hiroshima and the horrors is unleashed in your fun Marvel movie. But you know, I respect the ambition of it.
Yeah, man. There was actually a moment where that happened, and I was actually for a second, I was like, "Is this okay?" Like it seemed a little crass.
I think the Western culture definitely doesn't face enough the reality of what happened there.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, we see it as like it's. I think it's taught to us as like, you know, at first as victory. We won a world war. But like, yeah, like over time, the more I think about that, it's more like, oh my God,
it's just one of the worst things in the history
of humanity.
Horrible. Just. I mean, like, there's really no words. There's really no.
But well, a counter argument for that is by the same token, we also didn't have Captain America freeing Jews from concentration camps.
Yeah, I mean that's true. That didn't happen.
Because
so they wherewithal of mind of not to fight actual Nazis. They switched it up to make sure that they're doing Red Skull because hey, look, we're just doing fantasy fun world.
Because, the interesting thing about the MCU is that, originally, back in the first Iron Man, it was our world. But then, a little bit, it was maybe more advanced tech existed. And as, the MCU got fleshed out, it became more magical. And over time, it's not our world anymore. And after the snap, it is, so far, it's in the Marvel Universe is 5 years in the future. It is completely separated from anything remotely, congruent with our timeline. It is its own unique entity. And through the faces, it's interesting to see as it divorces. So I guess it's interesting. It was a very bold choice to go to Hiroshima, a real world event from this universe that has become very divorced from real world. The coronavirus did not happen in the Marvel universe.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. And it kind of makes me think of something else. Is that when it started, it seemed more grounded in our world, and it's gotten more and more fantastical as we go. And it's sort of in some ways, I feel like they're sort of having the same problem as Dragon Ball Z with power scaling. Is they have to keep going bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. So the stakes, they keep having to rise, right? Otherwise, why are we watching? And so
you feel, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
But do you agree, in recent times, they've veered away from that, and they are scaling down to more personal stories, more sectioned off stories? But I guess, they did do another Planet Buster this story.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They went from, okay, how do we go bigger than half of the entire universe getting snapped away? And how do they do that? Well, I mean, sorry, spoilers. This entire podcast is spoilers. But, with Loki, they're like, oh, yeah, that thing that made half the universe go away? That's nothing. These are trinkets.
Yeah.
Office workers are keeping them in their desks. This means nothing. This all-powerful thing is nothing.
Yeah, I definitely didn't like that. Where each time I'm seeing a new portion of some of the MCU trying to belittle the other portions,
right?
Hey, you don't have to do that because it's all a pretty wild story. And
right.
Loki is trying to say that didn't matter, we matter. And now I did think Eternals made me feel that a little bit, where it's just well, Thanos doesn't matter. The real game is the Eternals doing things. Guys, don't compete with who's most important.
Right, but also what was going on, and maybe y'all have an answer for this, but think about what was happening here. A planet-sized creature was emerging from the center of the Earth, and not a single Avenger shows up.
That's what I want to know. In Far From Home, are we going to see on the news in Peter when he's in class, assuming he gets to go back to class, about people going to visit the giant hand that's now embedded within the middle of Earth?
Right.
I will say that during that event, the scale of it looks gigantic while you're there, but across the planet, even on a supersonic jet, you'd still have at least an hour to get there. Therefore, it could happen, and no Avenger got there in time.
Okay, fair enough. And
they did close it up pretty quickly.
Right.
So once it started going down.
There are certainly some Avengers who are fast enough to do it, right? But one of them is probably Thor. But Thor's off busy, right, with the Guardians of the Galaxy, in theory, at this time. Is there anybody else in the Avengers who's even close to fast enough?
I guess we could definitely say that Doctor Strange could have showed up.
Doctor Strange, it would be the one. But I mean, I feel I hope they explain it. I hope they explain why none of them showed up, because otherwise it just seems we didn't have the money, or they didn't fit into the narrative, which is probably really what was going on. They can't suddenly have Doctor Strange teleporting in, or Thor coming in and knocking fingers around.
It
True,
is.
true.
It is always like I think the magic in Marvel right now is like when you have like the lead characters come in, like you know that was fun in Thor Ragnarok where he just hangs out with Doctor Strange for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't think that'll ever get old, but obviously you can't do that trick so many times because there are contracts to negotiate and A-listers want their money and they're not super cheap or whatnot. As much as fun it would be to have like Thor. Or I'm trying to think, or Hulk come in and say, well, what's with this giant guy who came out of the middle of the planet?
Yeah, totally.
I would say also like so they lost a lot of their heavy hitters so that they wouldn't have the surveillance access to the surveillance that would let them know where these earthquakes are coming from when it does start going down. Like Doctor Strange could probably find, oh my God, there's an earthquake, and do his research, but I'm not sure if he has like a satellite network like Tony once had.
Right.
So we could do a little this and that, and it was closed up fast enough so that by the time it was over, eventually, once the movie's done, maybe the Avengers were there and probably on site, and Shield is doing their thing.
So it's explainable. It's explainable, and all right, I'll concede that.
A critique I will say is I do kind of have is like they gotta stop doing CGI monster spam.
Oh God, yeah.
Once again, we've done a Cloverfield type design monster.
Woof.
The deviants were just terrible designs, and they were just like they were not great. It was kind of fun to see them get smacked around, but yeah, they were just like, I'm a tentacle monster spam, and I'm just gonna fill it up the screen and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it's like they looked like the art from a Magic the Gathering card.
Man, I'm not sure if I give them that much credit. Like, not enough colors and whatnot.
No, there's a specific. I wish I could remember what they're called right now, but there's a specific monster in Magic the Gathering that look just like these things.
Oh,
Eldrazi. They look like an Eldrazi.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nerd.
Hey, you are.
Cool.
I'll send you some pictures of some of these things.
I see it.
But I mean, do they not?
They do. They straight up do.
Yeah.
Like, so what I think is starting to happen there is that all franchises are getting sick of making awesome bad guys and then them being so awesome that they can't put them away ever again. Like, they make Loki awesome. Now Loki has to have his own TV series, and like the only character they think that happened that was cool in the Star Wars sequels was Kylo Ren, and you're like, oh, we want more Kylo Ren. Like every time they make too cool of a bad guy, you can't just put that guy down. So maybe they want to make it so that they're more disposable.
Interesting. That's an interesting theory. I feel like that's a great problem to have, though. Like, oh my God, we have this character and everybody wants to see them again. They want to spend all this money and all their time on this character. Yeah, but I guess maybe they are more interested in the heroes, right? That these are the things they really want to push, not necessarily the villains. And a lot of the time, that can be narratively an issue when a villain becomes so popular they have to start doing turns, like with Loki, where he starts becoming a good guy.
Let's see. A critique that I've heard about this is too many people in the cast, but I think I have a different take on that, which is that in this cast, where what you're feeling is that this is that they are Avengers, but what I'm seeing is like they're using one team of people to fill all the slots of what would be normally in a cast of different roles. So like instead of like this being like a full cast of Avengers, instead this is a full cast of one team, but they're broken up into support, villains, minor villains, and they can be kind of like mixed around based on like their life experiences. So it's not too many characters. We have as many characters as we usually get, but this time we're using the cast as all the roles that are usually mixed up in other stories. That make sense?
It's a little bit convoluted, but I just want to add.
I don't follow.
Okay, so like
I kind of normally, I think Isaac, go ahead. Yeah, I think add your thing.
I was just gonna say, I think Crow, who is like the name of like the lead deviant, is now in the running for like the worst Marvel villain.
Yes,
worst MCU villain.
That was a waste.
I keep forgetting
because I was wondering where he was going to go, and nowhere. He was a boss fight, so Angelina Jolie could have a boss fight.
Ugh. That was so anticlimactic.
Yep.
Bad.
I was waiting for him to become like, I thought what was going to happen is he's going to take down Angelina Jolie and go Super Saiyan and be like, I'll see you guys next movie. Well,
yeah.
And
or I thought when he came in and hit Rob Stark, I thought that he was going to suddenly be fighting him and they'd kind of team up a little bit or something like that. But the way they went was like the most boring way they could have gone, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to try to Oh, sorry, Isaac.
Oh, sorry. So I'm glad you were in agreement, but what were you going to say, Matt?
Oh, I was going to say, Keith, you want to take another go with just explaining what you were trying to say before?
Yeah, really quickly, like, it's like, so normally you'd have, like, 4 heroes, and then, like, the villain and that villain's henchmen are elsewhere, and they come into the same place, and then they interact and fight. This time we have one team, and within that team we have a planted villain and a planted henchman. Instead of it being, like, too many characters, what we're seeing is the same amount of characters we usually get, but it's all in the same team.
I see.
And we're using those people for the roles of, like, what usually appears in a story.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
I could sort of agree with that, but there we go. Here's another little bit of a criticism I have. I was not a huge fan of the Icarus heel turn, because like I feel like if you're introducing a team, you want people to like them. You want to like really sell the team. So I think having someone betray them, kind of like that's what you do in the second movie. That's when you like want to pull on the heartstrings. But I think like in the first movie, you want them to be unified. And honestly, Icarus was not great as a hero, and he was even worse as a villain. Mm-hmm. He just did not feel like super threatening. There was never like a moment, because like in the beginning, he kind of struggled when they fight the first deviant. So you didn't really sell that like this guy is the apex of the food chain. Oh fuck, they're gonna have to fight Icarus. Sure, he's the power set of Superman, but he doesn't feel as threatening as evil Superman is supposed to be. And
right. Oh, I was going to agree with that, and then also they did that thing where when he did the heel turn, he suddenly became more powerful because they were like, "Uh-oh, we can't fight Icarus. Icarus is too strong." And I'm like, were you all watching this movie with us? I mean, like, no, it's not.
He's not that strong.
Not that strong.
I felt the exact same thing.
That line in the Firefly movie, that guy beat Mal, and then like Jane's like, that's not that hard. But okay, so I was suckered. The people I saw with my buddies Jim and Jason, they're like, no, we knew that guy was gonna be the bad guy when we first saw him, and I was like, oh, because like I actually did think that he was going to be like in the running for the leader of the Avengers. I thought that's where they're going to go with it, like have their own little powered down Superman character, and then eventually give him a new costume, and then once the characters start mixing up and we get our newest final showdown, I thought he was going to be the leader. So when his heel turn happened, I was like, oh shit, all right, cool.
Yeah,
and
I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also in like the contained story that I was happy to bring myself to, it felt great. I like the because I really did buy into enough time passing and being together for long enough, and him falling in love with what sounded like she said. Everybody says it sounds like she said sassy.
Cersei?
When she first, yeah, Cersei. But like when she first showed up on the ship, she's like sassy. And I'm like sassy. Huh? Okay, anyway, Cersei. But like, yeah, when they got together, I did feel that love. I really enjoyed it. And then like over enough period of time, them was parting ways, but like when they saw each other again, like I felt that. It felt cool that, you know, like enough time passes, they change, they spread apart, but they still hold love for each other. And then the final showdown of like that thing that I keep bringing up where like, you know, these bad guys, quote unquote, have been around for billions of years. Maybe they do know something, and it is a legit question. Like for Icarus, like their job really does bring around billions of more people, and billions more people who get to live, love, and dream. And to stop that is dangerous on a bigger scale. So I understood. I could sympathize with his call there, where he's like, yeah, but if we don't, like, if someone had stopped us a long time ago, we wouldn't have Earth and all the joy that's come from that. So who are we to say when this cycle should stop? And then for him, that cycle stopped when he was like, I can't take down this person that I've loved for thousands of years. And I like that.
I think that when the celestial guy was coming out, she should have turned him into like space butterflies or something and then reconstituted him in space.
That's not a bad idea. Because like
Right?
when you say it like that, it sounds like a great arc on paper, and there are many things that like are good on paper, but in execution they lack, like a cowboy, like a live action Cowboy Bebop remake.
That's actually a really good point, because I kind of imagine, like, let's say she does that. She like gets him out of the volcano in the form of steam, and then he reforms outside, and he's just kind of standing there like, oh.
Guess I can keep doing my job and have to hurry, buddy.
Yeah, all right, see ya. It would be very awkward.
Yeah, Icarus, and then like Arsham appears in the sky behind him, and they kind of look at you like, oh shit, I thought of that.
I will say, I love that scene in the end where they're like, yeah, we did the great thing. You know, we don't really talk to Arshin. We don't even know if he's around. And then he just appears in the sky like a monstrous figure.
Yeah.
It's like, yes. Fuck you, bitches. You don't deal with the cosmic order, you stupid little robot puppets.
Yeah, listen here, you little shit. I'm gonna tell you how the universe works. Ooh, you're dumb, and I'm big, not dumb. Yeah, that was incredible. I love it when things that are like, you know, I don't know. I love sort of imagining how something that is planet-sized would look in the sky as it's coming towards a. You ever see those videos of like, hey, if we were like a moon of frickin' Saturn, this is what it would look like. You know, stuff like that. It's just mind-boggling.
And how eventually the galaxy of Andromeda will fill up our sky.
Ooh, I think I have.
Yeah, they're crashing into us eventually down the line, and if there's enough people around that far enough in the future, you'll see a gigantic galaxy in the sky.
Oh, it's so cool.
Which I'm not sure if the Earth will still be around, but yeah.
Well, if there's a good video of that, which I'm assuming you've probably seen it on YouTube, you should put it in the show notes.
I shall.
Nice.
And there is.
So yeah, for me, there were some individual performances that I really, really liked. Camille Nanjiani was just so freaking good.
He was a lot of fun. I loved his valet assistant.
Yes,
God,
very much.
He was Harish Patel is this guy's name. He was amazing. He brought a lot of heart to this movie, I felt.
Agreed, fully. I guess like a thing that I did give a side eye to was him saying, "I'm just not going to be in the finale, guys," and just exit stage right. Like, oh, okay.
That was kind of strange that they just had him duck out. Oh, I also want to know, what was the point of his whole like body transformation? Like, Fastos did not need to get super hyped, and his powers is he just shoots things from his finger. So all you see are his shoulders. So what was the whole point of Camille Nanjiani having his male body transformation that was like?
Oh, I saw a video that suspects that the Marvel Machine has a way of hopefully safely beefing you up in a short amount of time, and if you're in that machine, you can say, "I'd like to be beefy, please," and yeah, he get to have an Adonis body for a while, because like the video showed like how just before they're in Marvel, this is what like Chris Evans looked like. And this is what he looks like in the movie series. And this is what he looks like now. And his body goes way back to normal fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they got something going on there. and
I guess
like,
Kumail is like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to like take advantage of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's got a great video
that was
too,
like one of the.
where he's just saying like, guys, you're just being lazy. Anybody can do this. Look, all you need is a trainer to work with you around the clock for 6 months, this incredibly expensive food, and he just kind of goes down this list that like almost nobody could do. You got to spend 7 days a week doing this for like your entire life, but come on, it's easy. Anybody can do this.
He made a joke about that.
Yeah, he was joking about it because people
Nice.
being like, this is like holding him up as some sort of like, see, if he can do it, you can do it. He's gonna be like, that's ridiculous. I have these absurd resources that like so few people have. It's like, no, you can't. Don't compare yourself to this. You're not being fair to yourself. Is what he was saying, which I thought was really cool.
I'm looking forward to the the story that explains like what happened. Like I feel like something had to have happened where he just couldn't fit in his schedule and he had to leave. Like I remember there's a show called Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, and a gal wants to know, she was in it, and like this scene does happen where she goes, "Hey guys, everything's just too weird for me. Going, I gotta get out of here now," and she left. And then like her real life reason was she was like, "Yeah, they're not really using me in the show, so I just asked them to write me out." So like, there's no good reason for him to have been written out like that. So there has to be like he has another project, or I don't know. Like, anybody heard anything as why that happened? Because that was out of nowhere.
I haven't heard anything through the grapevine. Like, and I don't think Kumail Nanjiani, considering how much of a famous geek he is, that like he'd be like, yeah, I got this other thing that's a little more important to me than being a Marvel movie.
The frickin' MCU, yeah, not much.
Yeah, I wonder what could have happened where you're not in the final freaking showdown all of a sudden. That was the weirdest part of the movie.
Maybe they were like, they wanted to increase the tension because, Icarus, like, who are the evil Eternals? The one who is illusions that can't actually affect anything. So all she's good for is subterfuge. And then, not Superman, who was basically, Fastos was able to basically, I think, didn't Fastos and Makari basically beat them with just on his own?
Yeah.
Yeah, they pretty much handled him.
Yeah, they got him. I mean, Fastos like really like he upped his game considerably. I saw him as like, oh, he's just sort of like the helpless engineer. He's like, nah, dude, let me show you something. Nope. And he just like he came out with like a real A-game fighting stuff, which is amazing.
We would call him the winner of that showdown, even.
And no doubt about it, he locked him down. It was something.
So I guess maybe their reason was like, oh fuck, this isn't going to be really cool if we just have like 9 or 8 or how many Eternals were there? There's like at least 6 of them at that point, right?
There's a good number, and they cut like at least 2 to 4 out of the movie that they're originally going to have.
So yeah, 6 versus 1 did not seem like a super fair fight. Maybe that was the reason for like cutting him out. Although you could have done the classic Avatar where they fight a volcano, and maybe that was like kind of like partially them battling the volcano as it erupts and the celestial comes. Them versus the environment versus them versus like one evil Eternal.
I look forward to when this is revealed. Druig, there's a thing that I liked about his story, where he's just like really tired of like just allowing humans to act wild.
Yep.
And saying, why the hell, what, and I actually expected them to take him down before he walked off the whole bunch of people.
Yeah, he felt.
But they let him.
He felt like I was surprised. Out of all of the ones that felt like they'd be evil, the guy who could mind control people felt like, and it makes sense. Like from a screenwriting standpoint, for him to be a final battle, you love and protect these people, and then he like gets a whole bunch of them with shotguns, and then they come and start to try and shoot the Eternals, and then they have to find some sort of smart way to incapacitate the people that they want to protect. So I was very surprised that they didn't use him versus Icarus.
I did like that they showed the result of why he shouldn't do that, because like there's like I think about those kind of questions myself sometimes, where like if I had these powers, hell yeah, I'd force everybody to be nice. Like I'm tired of watching like all these bad things happen. So yeah, I'd do it. And then you see what happens, which is aggressive stagnation. Like, he walked off controlling a whole bunch of people, and he didn't make it a utopia. He made a cult of people who didn't grow ever. So that was kind of cool to see where his endpoint was of controlling people, which was not the best situation. It is a lack of growth. So
Totally. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the whole thing, and they brought it up. They brought it up a few times. Is that you can't just control people and say, hey, or give them everything. Otherwise, yeah, they'll never grow. They'll never advance as a race. I mean, it's kind of like that's why the whole Prime Directive thing in Star Trek exists, right? Or one of the reasons. If you're always interfering with like more I don't know what the right word is really, but like let's say we're on a planetary thing, and they're like a planet that's not as far along as far as technology is concerned, you start handing them stuff, they're not going to figure stuff out on their own. They're going to stop advancing.
And all the more reason where, in the story that does explain, like people keep on asking, like, you know, why didn't they interfere here and there? Why did they jump in the fight with Thanos? Because they are not superheroes. They really are there to just cultivate humanity, and that does mean allow for decimation, because that also brings about population booms. So, yeah, they're only there to make sure that deviants don't completely exterminate humanity.
That's it. They had a job, did their job.
Yep. Yeah, I like that the bones of their science fiction work.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair. I never had any problem with that. I mean, that always made perfect sense to me.
Yeah, that is a big continual. They're like, why can they jump in here, there? It just didn't make sense. Like, no, it's in the story. They're not here to save the world. They're here to make sure we aren't completely wiped out.
Totally.
There you go.
Yeah. He wasn't in it a ton, but I also really liked Kit Harington.
Oh,
Yes.
I thought that was kind of like a fucked up thing that they did to have, like, the lead, and then she has the two Game of Thrones Stark boys, both kind of like inadvertently fighting over her.
Right? And her name is Cersei? Like, whoa.
I didn't notice that. Okay, so do you guys know anything about the Black Knight?
No, I know nothing.
Very, very little.
You guys know that's what that's who he is, though?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'll also say I know Jack Mackerel about him, but I just knew that he's the Black Knight, and throughout time, I've only seen the Black Knight appear in background pictures of bigger stories, and I've never seen him matter ever, which is kind of cool, because like that's where the Avengers were once for me. There's Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, and like they're always background characters in bigger stories where you're like, yeah, these guys are cool once, and now they're the biggest, and now they're doing it again with lots of like lesser knowners. Like we're getting the Black Knight stepping out, Moon Knight stepping up, Blade is coming back. So I do like that they are digging in their toy chests again for the unplayed with toys. So.
That's fantastic. I think it's, yeah. I'm totally into that. I really only know Black Knight because I thought the character design is pretty cool, and I've seen it floating around like as a toy and whatnot.
Do you guys know like when they're having their supper thing, the spit beer? You know that's a real thing.
I would imagine that felt like it was very authentically researched. That was like a kind of local custom. Although, what's the name of the Korean guy who was Gilgamesh? I felt bad for him that he gets to get thrown under the bus and doesn't get to like hang around with all the Eternals. So I was sad to see them killed off because I know he's like I've seen him in pop up in various Korean cinema. So I guess I was also sad to like you're introduced. You should if you're introducing a big superhero team, you shouldn't kill off. How many died? 3. Yeah, we lost 3 Eternals in this movie.
Cool.
Yeah.
Gilgamesh. Oh yeah. Ajax and Icarus. All folded. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of characters, and we need some sacrifices, and I think he went out pretty well, if I remember right.
Well, he was defending like Angelina Jolie. I was amazed though that they got her for like what's pretty much a very like kind of minor supporting character.
I have a feeling like there's something it feels like that the MCU is now the in club, and is a job that keeps you well paid, which is what I felt. They're like, Angelina Jolie, the guy who plays Falcon, said that the age of the celebrity is over.
Yep.
And now it's about franchises, and Angelina Jolie knows this.
Yep.
And she's like, fuck it. Yeah, put me in the MCU so like my star stays bright, and therefore it can keep getting her roles. That's what I saw. He's like, yeah, whatever. So, make me look awesome. I'll show up and do my thing.
I'm sure there's someone
Keep
there
my
who's
freedom.
like trying to figure out some way to get her in the same room with Julianne Dreyfus, who's like now doing cameos in the MCU. I assume she's going to be like a big central figure in the Dark Avengers, or she's being built up as a figure, as like the Nick Fury for like the evil Avengers.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But I guess she's also an example of like a big name actress who's like a big signature thing, doing kind of like what's a really kind of like a very minor, almost well, Angelina Jolie's supporting. She's not a cameo, but a lesser role than you'd expect for someone of their stature.
But yeah, exactly. I think now it's the cool kids club. Now, if there's no shame in being in superhero movies now. There's like there's basically zero stigma.
You're Marvel.
It's a good thing. This is and it's like you're saying, it's continual work. So why the hell not? Like, it's not surprising anymore.
Well, it just reminds me of poor Vin Diesel, who, well, technically he is in the MCU already, just the most thankless job of the MCU. But like, he did that, I am Groot. But the Bloodshot role he had was like, I'm going to do my own superhero. And
Bloodshot. Oh my god, I that was beautifully hilarious to me. Like, that Bloodshot gets his own comic book movie is like Bloodshot was like 5-cent bin comic.
Yes.
Back in my day.
Yes, it is.
And it's like, what?
It's kind of like you go to
That
half
is a
price books and
Bloodshot?
get some cheap comics. It's all Bloodshot. It's Bloodshot and Savage Dragon. That's all you're gonna find there. A wasteland of old
5-cent
Image
Bloodshot.
comics.
Yeah, that was cute. But also, other thing I'm liking is that this was such a unique, weird story. Like, MCU allows for within it almost whatever you want now. Like, for me, like, I missed the era of the 80s where you'd have a movie where a guy finds a thing in the freaking what do you call that, the junk yard? Yeah, he finds the thing in the junkyard, and he takes it to school, and it turns the school into a interdimensional time battleground where there's M16s versus T-Rexes, which this did happen. It's called My Science Project. It's fantastic. And like, yeah, just bursts of like weird creativity happening. And now we can get this in the MCU. You can now have our Star Wars anytime we want to. Now we can have vampire fiction, and now we can have immortal automaton fiction. And yeah, outside the MCU, which I don't know, it's kind of unfortunate, but thanks to that we now have the platform, the MCU, we can now have weird, wild stories wherever we want in any kind of like genre. So yeah, I love that about Eternals.
Yeah, it's yeah, you're right, because this is very much more like, this is very sci-fi esque, right? This is space stuff. It's all primarily on Earth, but it's space stuff because that's what it was talking. And I did find that like the explanation of the Eternals and the Celestials, or whatever they're called, I thought that was really cool. I thought it was really well done. I found that very compelling.
I definitely agree with Matt on there that like all when it went really big and cosmic and it's so Celestials building galaxies, I loved all that stuff. I loved it could go that big and cosmic and huge. I guess, what was I gonna? Ah, crap! I lost my thought.
Well, they should have had what's his face narrating it.
Morgan Freeman.
No. The astronomer guy. It must be late.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
They should have had Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's just like, and to explain our celestial plan, we have Neil deGrasse Tyson.
So I guess I'm running out of notes, but like one last thing is I was totally cool with seeing Icarus flying to the sun. I can see no other way. I know it's on the nose. I know it's exactly on the nose, but how else should he end? And if he doesn't, everybody's going to be wondering, like, why didn't that happen? Like,
Yeah. It was
if he's here for one movie,
yeah, that's it, and he's done. He's super dead, right? And yeah, I thought that was I was surprised that he's like, all right, I'm out of here. I thought he was just flying away. I thought he was kind of like, okay,
Me too.
I'm really embarrassed right now, and I'm gonna fly away into the universe. Like, no, just right into the sun.
Yep. So I thought like he was going to disappear into the galaxy, so that once you turn the corner, like all of a sudden Thor bumps into him, like, oh my god, who are you? Da-da-da.
Right, but just like,
but no, he's closing up that loop of the story.
yeah, but it's just the thing though is like, was there a time jump there? Because the sun is one solar unit away from the Earth, right? About 8 minutes by the speed of light. So how long did it take him to get there?
For us, there's now I'll say there's two different answers that are easy in the film, which is that yes, we could have seen an edit time jump of 20 hours later,
Right.
and that was just in the edit, or we don't know Icarus's top speed once he hits past the atmosphere.
Right. I mean, because if that was in real time, oh boy, he fast. He real fast. He's got that FTL on lockdown.
Both were.
Totally. I mean, this is
Yeah.
That's all I got. Go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you. No, finally retaining my thought. There are parts I enjoyed about the Eternals, but unlike the Suicide Squad, where I wanted to tear you down, it's like, this is not good. This I think I could perfectly understand someone really enjoying it. And being happy with it, and it makes sense to me. Versus Suicide Squad, where I was like, "How do you defend this?"
It was fun. They shot a giant monster like in Ghostbusters.
They sure did, bud. But we're not going to get into that again.
All right, we will. Back in the way.
But I think
were you guys ever comic book readers where you went to the comic book shop and just walked up and down the aisles? Do you guys do that?
I mean, I was never super into that. I would read comics when I was a kid, and occasionally I'll go look at them now. But or I'll collect the collections, right? The graphic novels. But I've never been hey, put me down for this month's floppies kind of guy or whatever.
Have a pull list.
Exactly.
It varies. I mean, I'll peruse around a comic shop, but I usually won't buy something unless it's something I know I want to get. I'm one of those awful people who's very accustomed to reading pirated stuff online. So that's how I really read things. So, but I'm guessing what you're leading with this is that this felt like going to a comic book shop, seeing a weird cover and being pleasantly surprised.
Yes. It was a weekly ritual for me. In the 90s, I would walk down from where I was living, maybe on campus or wherever. I would make my pilgrimage to State Street. I'd go downstairs into Pick-a-Book, it was called, into that basement. And you just the smell of all the comic books around and piles here and there. And you just and you find that one. You're like, what's in this thing? And you get yourself a self-contained story. One of the things that comes to mind is a comic book called Majestic. And it's about basically their rip-off version of Superman and all the last immortals at the heat death of the universe. And it was beautiful. I will never forget that comic book. And all the complaints people have about this is would have been there. Each character didn't get their full arc and they kind of showed up. And it's hey, yeah, but this is the contained weird story that we're doing. And I had fun. I'm glad that we finally got, and maybe we'll now continue to get these contained weird stories, because the In Call is coming, which is from Joe Dorowski. It's a very weird comic book and self-contained oddness, and I've been waiting for this renaissance since the 80s. So I'm glad that we're seeing stuff like this.
Right.
So you're happy that that you're seeing more of these stories, and Eternals is kind of even if it has the MCU formula, it feels more towards that than I don't know, another the Hawkeye TV show.
Yeah, the Hawkeye TV show feels like ABC Family presents Hawkeye. Okay.
I mean, but that's Hawkeye.
That's what it feels like. But then again, that does go to that. Like, hey, if we're now like allowed explosions of all different genres and tones and corners of the universe and different adventures for different kinds of people. So even though it's like, yeah, not what I want, I'm glad that now we are starting to see the industry having enough money to take chances on just weirdness and not continually remixing the superhero origin story or another Wrath of Khan type story. Like, we're now starting to get bursts of creativity, which I've been freaking waiting for and thought I'd get in the sequel Star Wars movies, but didn't. And I'd love to complain about that. Everybody drink, because I did it. I mentioned how much I hate Star Wars, new Star Wars, and I do that every podcast. I'm sure that somewhere in the future, someone will make a drinking game out of that.
Oh, well, one thing I was kind of curious to get your. What do you guys think of the post-credit sequence of the Eternals, where Harry Styles comes in?
Oh, I didn't care.
Yeah, it's me going cool. You know, like unknown, cool unknown. I hope you guys get very creative with this because, I guess he's like a guy from a boy band or something called One Direction.
Yeah, and then he branched out and he kind of.
I like Harry Styles well enough. Yeah, his own solo artist. He's like really big and like. I have some friends who are just like. I have a friend who loves Harry Styles so much. She wrote a Harry Styles sketch show. It's just a bunch of sketches about Harry Styles. It was really good. She did a great job, but she loves Harry Styles. And like I've watched some of his videos and listened to some of his music. He's a charming dude. I think he's pretty talented. So like looking forward to see what his character is, but I have no idea who that character is. I didn't even recognize him at first.
Brother of Thanos.
Thanos.
I hated that sequence so much. I hated the stupid Patton Oswalt dwarf thing. I hated. I also really didn't like. How is he the brother of Thanos if he's an Eternal? He's wearing the Eternal's costume. He looks like he's an Eternal, and Thanos is Thanos the Mad Titan. He's like there's like this race of purple people who are Titans. So I don't know. It sort of like made me have that like angry nerd rage where it's like, this doesn't make sense. This is mutually incompatible. You have not justified this enough for me.
Agreed.
I fully agree.
Yeah, and oh my god.
But I do think they care enough. They do care enough that they're going to make it make sense.
Right. But what was going on with the Leprechaun, the Patton Oswalt Leprechaun? What was happening there? Like, it wasn't good. I'm sorry. It didn't look good. It should look good. They have all the money. Like
he's from the comic book.
Is he CG in the comic book?
He's really stupid at looking in the comic.
He's weird looking, but he doesn't show up and people are like, "Oh, that thing is made out of computer graphics." They don't say that in the comic. Do they?
He shows up and everybody does roll their eyes. So they are sticking to what he's.
He was just super off-putting, and I hated that sequence. Although.
The other stinger, though, apparently that was not Nick Fury saying that.
Oh, who said that? Who?
Mahershala Ali. Blade.
What? Are you how do you know that? Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. I saw that somewhere, and I'm not sure because you guys aren't sure.
I thought it was just the mystical force of whatever his powered origin is that, I was too lazy to look up an explanation video. I always figured that's what the voice was calling out to him, and that, it's whatever his power source is.
Here we go. Director Chloe Zhao told fandom that the voice at the end is Mahershala Ali. Huge deal because Ali is set to play Blade in an upcoming Marvel movie.
That's cool.
What does the Black Knight have to do with Blade? Oh, that's interesting.
Exactly. That's why I like it. Yeah. So, also, what I'm seeing is urban fantasy. Eternals really plays into a genre that a friend of mine was really into and is really out there, and there's a lot of fans for it. It is called urban fiction, and it's like a fantasy that takes place in modern day, in the shadows of, and people doing magic and sword fighting and type stuff. So,
like the famous Fables comic, right?
That would definitely qualify. And then there's other stuff that you've never heard of, like that still has big fandoms. That like these cool people who dress normal, and no one knows that they get jumped by demons in their living room every so often, and that's kind of like the world that they're starting to build with the Black Knight and Blade.
Very fun. I'm into that. I really want to see more Black Knight. Like, I really want to see more Kit Harington as Black Knight. Like, that, to me, that was my takeaway from this movie. It's like, I want to see this character.
I would love, I want to see modern day fighting of fantasy fighters with swords and blade and the Black Knight side by side fighting Mephisto or whoever.
Yeah, whoever. I'm fine with them fighting whoever. Honestly, yeah. Especially if it's freaking Blade. Come on. Yeah.
Indeed.
Probably Van.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be super fun.
All right. So, final thoughts on Eternals?
Well, before we get into the final thoughts, I had like one last little thing that kind of ties into the final thoughts. So I was kind of curious. What are your guys' rankings so far of like? So let's do like a tier system. S, A, B, C, D of like the Phase 4 projects of Marvel, including the TV shows. How
where do we start with?
So like,
where's Phase 4 start?
So for the first one, I guess would be like WandaVision. What would you give that?
Oof. Started A tier and ended in, I'm gonna be mean and say C tier.
Oh wow.
I'd agree with that. That's a pretty good assessment. I think it was.
Yeah, that last episode. Oof, like, guys, what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah.
Matt, what do you think? What tier would you give WandaVision?
I agree with that. It started really strong, and then I lost some interest. But I'm gonna give it an overall B.
Okay.
What about you, Isaac?
Somewhere between B and C. I think I'll go for C just because I was a little disappointed towards the end where it had like a really interesting premise, and then it kind of like followed the Marvel formula a little bit too much. And I was also not happy. Like, I think you should have just like not made her like sympathetic. You should have like made her like be the villain and like blame it all on Agatha. Felt like the weak story choice. So I definitely think it started in A, but then by the end was like C tier. Falcon
in shitty sidelining, like. The woman who's going to become a Marvel, they made her into a superhero, and they put her in a bedroom with Boner guy, and you're like, what the shit, guy? You like when Quicksilver showed up, they made a fool out of me because I jumped up, I screamed, I ran around my living room, I text some friends, and they're like, Boner. Like, I will punch whoever did that in the stomach. And watch them sink to the ground and tell them never do that ever again.
The smartest casting thing with the worst payoff. So, all right, and Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Falcon Winter Soldier for me started in B tier, ended in C minus. They spun wheels a lot. And there's a weird racial element on this where there's like an article that it says like Sam can't fight, and it's a weird thing that Disney has been doing with black male characters that aren't sectioned off in their own universe, where they don't let them win fights outright. So anytime he was fighting a white person or a white guy, if you saw it clearly, he could never win the fight on his own, which really gets under my skin. It's a little too weird. And then, like, they kind of wanted to be patted on the back that they let him be Captain America. And you're like, yeah, but, so what did he end up doing? He tried to befriend a girl who's a mass murderer? Guys, what are you doing in this
He gave a really good,
I wanted this
speech. Give that great speech.
You've got to do better. Like, guys,
here's a complicated situation of global geopolitics. Do better. You're not doing right. You need to solve Israel-Palestine. Just work on it harder.
Just come on, Nike that shit. I'm a C minus.
Yeah, I 100% agree. C minus. I think there was some poignant stuff. Like, I think the stuff with Isaiah Bradley was really good, but it had a weak villain and a lot of wheel spinning. And the action wasn't quite as good as like the the Captain America Civil War and what was the other one?
That was interesting how you said that. Isaiah.
Isn't it name Isaiah Bradley? That's what.
You said ESIA.
I thought I said Isaiah. Oh.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I liked it. I liked the anyway. I liked how you said it. Anyway.
But and I hated the villain. I thought they've spent way too much time trying to make us like her, and she wasn't like smart or charismatic to be really intimidating. She was just did not pull the strength she needed to. So yeah, I agree. C-. All right.
Yeah, they spammed because of how she looks. Don't you just like her though? Like, God, no.
You're supposed to like her.
Full of people.
Look, you're supposed to.
You're supposed to be on her side. She's supposed to be really sympathetic.
Right.
She's so pretty though. Like, guys, no.
All right, so Loki. What tier would you put that in?
Started with the potential of A- tier. Ended C tier again. So I thought like it felt like they were going to do a lot. I thought we were going to have like Doctor Who level of like new world building and adventures and whatnot. But then they fell too much into he's not Loki anymore. It's Tom Hiddleston. We like how Tom Hiddleston. And then weird emasculating of him and then powering him down and a full episode of him getting kicked in the nuts so that the writer could put her own self-insert kind of character in there who's like the cooler Loki who does all the things and it's called Loki, but Sylvie's the one who does everything in the show. And then also they did that weird thing like we were talking about earlier. They had to make it so they belittle the achievements of like the massive MCU that we've all loved, and that's why we're here in the first place. But they're like, ha ha ha, the Infinity Stones are trinkets, and everything they did is because our show says it was just destined. And it's just like, guys. And then their king isn't just eating apples and acting odd, and just like, guys, like I like what you guys started to do here, and there's so much potential, but yeah, you guys just kind of made me watch a full episode of him literally getting kicked in the nuts. And no thank you.
That's a good assessment. Matt?
Well, I was going to give it an A. But, I mean, honestly, here's the thing, is that, yes, all of those things happened. And I think they did suffer from that very classic thing where a bad guy becomes a good guy and is suddenly depowered. But that said, oh, gosh, I don't know. I feel bad for saying this, but I just enjoyed the damn thing, like despite all those problems. And I thought that the end, the setup was interesting, and I feel like it can go a lot more directions. And I felt like near the end, like Loki was kind of showing his power. And yeah, I do agree. Like it was obnoxious that he wasn't as powerful as he was in the future, but a lot of that was kind of explained. I think one of the big things that makes a bad guy so powerful is they don't have limits, right? They don't put a governor on what they're doing. But then when they become a good guy, then they have to hold back a little bit so they don't just like destroy everybody around them. So I think that's a little bit of what's going on there. And also in general, they depowered everybody with the whole timekeeper thing and whatnot. Like they kind of. And yeah, I wasn't crazy about that, saying that like all that stuff, all the super high stakes, yeah, none of that shit matters anymore.
So I sectioned that stuff off in its own world now. I'm like, no, you're not a part of my MCU for now. Like, I hope you guys pull up the ship before it crashes, because they still have time to smooth things out and make it work. But what they did, also really quickly, like, and Loki, as the person that as he was, and pulled him into this show, that character could have been amazing. Because, like, I was kept on waiting for, like, everyone doesn't trust Loki. And, like, I really wanted that all of a sudden, like, Sylvie sees a blade explode from her chest. And he's like, I'm a bad guy. I totally ripped the guy's eyeball out. This is the guy everybody's been talking to. And then King's like, wait, no! And, like, Loki rips his head off. The monster that he once was could have been an amazing character to watch happen, but they turned him into Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I will say though, like despite that, it was buoyed by some really excellent performances and fantastic characters. All of the like alternative Lokis were so good. And like classic Loki, like with his illusions and whatnot, and how he kind of like the scenes with him making the castles were so freaking good, and I also really liked the friendship between Loki and Owen Wilson. Like I thought that was super fun, that relationship. Like how like they kind of slowly became actual friends and whatnot. I thought that was really neat.
All the performances, Sylvie, Loki, the Commissioner woman, all of them. There's fantastic acting and performances across the board. So
what's your final grade or
For
ranking?
me?
Yeah, B, A.
I got to stick with my original grab. I'm giving it an A.
Oh wow, okay,
cool.
For me, I think it'd B minus, just because like I've really loved, out of all the Marvel shows, this one was the kind of like the one I was most excited for. I've really wanted to like time crimes with Owen Wilson and Loki traveling across the multiverse, just doing time crimes. But like I did not want the Sylvie Power Hour, and I think they overestimated how much people would like Sylvie. And I don't think she was like, it was not a great performance for a character that they thought we would be all over and love. And I also wasn't a huge fan that they were like trying to get us to root for the Loki Sylvie romance. Sure, you can't.
Yeah. The showrunner, I definitely saw Sylvie as the showrunner who will not be coming back next season. So I'm glad she got to do the show she wanted though. Like that show it looked great. It probably was a blast to do. Matt, you are right with all the good that you did see. But like what she did is something I would do, and I have done in my own fan fiction, which is I'm so sorry, I can't help it. Like if you're putting me in charge, I'm putting me as the main character among the Buffy crew, and it's gonna happen. And I know that it's not good to do it, and I understand where it comes from, and I wouldn't stop myself. And I haven't stopped myself in the past. So.
Yep, they got to realize that you give people that power.
Yeah,
like sometimes they're going to take advantage.
And all the other,
they got one shot and like take it.
All the other variants were a lot of fun. Classic Loki was fun. Boastful Loki was fun. Kid Loki, President Loki, Alligator Loki. I definitely liked that, and then liked the introduction of Kang. I just did not think the Sylvie Power Hour was as good as the Owen Wilson Loki time crime shows or the Loki variant. So that's why I put it at B minus. Mm-hmm. And now we move on to the big finale. Black Widow. What would you rank that? Hey, can you hear me? Hello? Did I hey, can you hear me?
All right. For me, Isaac, your audio is starting to fade out. Did you hear that, Matt, too?
Yeah, I guess we had an internet.
Let's watch out for that.
All right. I think we had
Black Widow.
We had an internet hiccup.
Oh God, that was a. Okay. All right. So Black Widow. I loved that. That was a fun. I wouldn't even call it a hate watch. It was a fun. I had a great time while I was watching it. Like the action, the interaction, the camaraderie, the world they created in that movie. As it happened, I was having a great time. I enjoyed the action sequences, and then given time to think about it. It was fun to laugh about it. Like, that was a terrible story that has so many broken bones and holes in it that I actually had fun picking it apart and rolling my eyes. And then Mahler laid down like a 4-hour review that was some of the most fun I've had all year. So, really bad movie, but sorry guys, I'm gonna give it a B+.
Yep.
Because I didn't. Yeah, like if I'm gonna talk about the quality movie itself, it's like C- D. Like, ooh, what did you guys do? I'm gonna smack your hand. But because of all the entertainment I got from it, and how harmless it is to like the rest of the MCU, because you can easily just like not worry about it and like forget it happened. I'm not gonna be too harsh on it. Be like, Like I'll give it not too much credit. I'll give you a solid B.
All right.
Okay. I think
I thought it
that's
was
a respectable grade.
Yeah, totally. I'm not going to get too crazy in the weeds here with it. I thought it was fun. I loved a lot of the performances. David Harbour, Florence Pugh were both fantastic. But I don't like prequels in general. Yuck. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't riveted. B-.
I agree with Matt. I think it was definitely a B-. It was, some people think, oh, it's the worst thing in the world. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. It's perfectly entertaining. David Harbour's fun. I loved the dynamic of, like, a fake spy family reunites and then, reconnects as a spy family. I just thought the story mechanics were kind of meh. And, the villain was kind of boring. And then it kind of devolved into, like, sort of like standard Marvel action sequences of like big CGI in a giant sky fortress when it kind of needed to be a little bit grittier. It needed the Winter Soldier grit that the Russo brothers did so well.
Yeah.
I loved the over the top fall. I loved
fun.
it. Like,
I mean,
it's the schlock that I enjoy, where like we're all falling and gliding across the. It was very Final Fantasy VII type. Sephiroth versus Cloud type fighting, and I was having a good old time. It's very stupid, but fun for me.
Yeah, right. But it's like it's not something I'm like running to to rewatch, like Captain Marvel or Ant-Man and the Wasp. Movies that if they're on TV, that's about it. All right, so now we're getting close. Next, Shang-Chi. I don't think we've discussed this in podcast form at all. What do you rank Shang-Chi?
Shang-Chi, my expectations, and my fingers are crossed for A+, because I love martial art fantasy. I wanted this to be great. Instead, it was very good. And I'll be kind to it and give it a B+, because it was solid, but you guys got lots of money. I wanted to see the next level. I want to see Warriors of Virtue meets The Raid, and just blow my freaking mind, and they didn't. But I had a good time, so B+.
Yeah, honestly, I would have given it a B. I'm ranking it up to B+ for the karaoke scenes.
I think Shang-Chi was very solid. I'd give it a B rank, just because the way I thought, like, all the initial first act stuff was really strong. I like the family dynamic. I love what they did with the Mandarin. That was like the smartest thing. And they got like
that was great.
Yeah, and the 10 rings are like kung fu rings, and they're like these space rings that he's lived 1,000 years for and conquered all across the world. That was great. My big problem was the final act, where they like go to the mystical realm and then fight the Dweller in the Dark. I was like, you didn't need that. You had like a great family conflict. You didn't need to introduce this whole other convoluted thing of these CGI monsters. You had like these great kung fu scenes. Why couldn't you stick with that?
Yeah, it's a reviewer called this the big gray monster syndrome. Like, it's big, it's gray, you can barely see it, and leaves no impression on you. Like, don't do that anymore, please. Don't do that.
It was
every monster is now Cloverfield.
Every monster is now Cloverfield. And he has to ride can he ride the dragon in the sequel? Just give him a really solid fight with the 10 rings, that would have been fine. But instead, it was just like so needlessly convoluted, and it was just like, come on.
Yes. Yeah. Fingers crossed for more, because I love what they have going, and I think it has potential. So what I'm thinking is like what we're seeing here, it feels like once we're almost refreshingly at the beginning of the MCU again, it feels like.
A restart of the more magical things, and everything's increased. But I think those are respectable, tiers. And now, the Eternals in the Phase 4. What tier do you give the Eternals? Where does it fit in with this new generation of the MCU as it paves forward for a new generation with a few missteps, but still going strong? People still love Marvel.
I will give the Eternals a solid B. I don't have much to complain about. My expectations weren't very high. They gave me a side story of weirdness that I've been asking for. The bones. I think I think Eternals will age very well. Like the stuff that doesn't age well is like Black Widow. Like it's a Flash in the Pan or Star Wars sequels. It's Flash in the Pan. It looks great while it's happening, but it has so many holes and broken bones that it just gets worse over time. But Eternals, I feel that there's a lot of things people didn't get when it happened, and when you review the bones of the story, it holds up and can allow for more growth of the fantasy world that they created, and I think it will age very well over time. So, solid B.
Yeah, it's certainly not bad, and it did. It, for a number of reasons, it did have a hard time holding my interest. I think I just I didn't buy in to a lot of the characters and their relationships, honestly, with each other. Every once in a while I did, but I think it's kind of telling that for me, one of my favorite characters was the valet. By a significant margin, and Kit Harington, who had a very small role. So I think that it had some, relatively big flaws as far as that was concerned. However, in general, obviously, it's still an enjoyable movie, and I thought it was trying to do some really neat stuff. I loved a lot of the big action set pieces and like the giant, planet-sized monsters showing up was really, really freaking amazing. And a lot of the powers I thought were kind of done well. I hate the leprechaun, but overall, B minus.
Cool. Isaac.
So I think I'm going to go for C+. I think there's a lot of big swings, and the most messed up thing is that Eternals is a better Ancient Aliens movie than Prometheus. Oh God!
Damn.
I was so disappointed by Prometheus. Oh God, I wanted to love that movie.
Covenant, though, man, it's a good case. This is a different conversation.
There's a lot of things that can be said about Covenant as well. I guess you could make a case for it, but
I get you. I understand.
But it's like some people are trying to. It's funny to see the critics savage it because this is the kind of thing that they're supposed to love. It's a diverse cast representation. I'm surprised that they chose this to bring the knives out. But it's still watchable. It's still enjoyable. I can have some complaints about the sort of lore about not kind of like showing how the Eternals become the Burger King Kids Club, or how the deaf Eternal becomes deaf. If that was built into her, if she lost her hearing and developed American Sign Language, and that somehow transferred, that would have been cool. But those are, I guess, what I saw the weaknesses, and the lack of a strong villain, and the third villain reveal, and Icarus not being that great of a villain. But it's still watchable. It still tried to do interesting things, and it's always nice to have something that try. And of course, I love the cosmic stuff. I love the thing with Arashim, the Judgment. I loved when they show the galaxy spanning stuff. I love that he came to the planet to say, "What you doing, Willis?
Get over here.
Get over here." I like that there was consequences. It's God will forget about it. No, God is here.
It's like that Denzel Washington thing. You think you can do that to me?
Yeah. But so I still think it's watchable, but it's in the C tier. It's not my favorite Marvel movie, but it's still enjoyable.
Cool. All right, I think that will wrap us up then. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I give it the B because of the fantasy that I want, but yeah, this is not gonna be on anyone's best movie of the year. But it wasn't insulting. It wasn't hateful. It was a good start for more cosmic Marvel. So I think we're in for a good future. All right, let's wrap this up. Isaac, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me at Lobster Magnet, the review channel. That's where I do my main stuff. I also started a recent thing. I saw this trend on YouTube that was driving me insane, of text to speech channels that just recap movies, and they have clickbait titles like Independence Day, President flies plane and fights aliens to save humanity. So I started one of my own called Story Explained. There's 2 videos up there. I hope you lazy mofos go find it for the stupid time I'm doing this. I'm trying to get in that lazy money, but oh boy, it is not working so far. So I guess go check out my real channel.
You'll be linked in the show notes, man. All right, Matt, where can I find more of your work on the internet?
Yeah. You can find me, Doc Falconer, on Instagram and Twitter, and I have yet to tweet, I think, this year. And yeah, at the moment, I'm working on some things right now. I got some stuff that is coming down the pike eventually. But yeah, I think that's all I'm really going to. That's all I'm going to talk about right now.
Right on. You can find me on Instagram at Keith Justice. If you on Instagram / Keith Justice, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter at Keith Hayward, and you can find this podcast and more at popgeeks.com. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you the next time for what?
Wait, I think we need to thank Sonic Clang for all of his work.
Yes, we were supposed to do that at the beginning of this recording.
No, we said we were going to do it at the end of the recording, didn't we?
Thank you, Sonic Clang. Without him, there would be no show. When you guys hear this show and our voices mixed together, music and trailers, it's a guy named Sonic Clang, and you can find his work on Spotify.
Look it up.
Apparently, he does lots of cool stuff with Doom music, so find his stuff on Spotify. Give him money. Give him those 1 cent for those plays.
Yeah, but his stuff has been listened to up to over 100,000 times, so he's no small deal. So, Sonic Clang, thank you once again for making the show possible. And yeah, we'll see you next time, maybe in Ghostbusters Afterlife, if you guys are up for it.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. All right. See y'all later. Thanks for listening.
Freak night, freak ride, wrong place, right time. Get down, lose your mind, cool and lovely. Freak time.